Alright guys, how's it going? Welcome back. Well, today we're in something very special. It's this 2011 Mercedes E63 AMG. Now this isn't any old E63 AMG, this is one of the very last ones to feature the naturally aspirated 6.2 litre engine. You see, after this, Mercedes dropped the 6.2 litre engine in favour of a smaller 5.5 litre twin turbo. Which means this is from that golden era when AMG were basically making muscle cars for people who drive to work in a suit. Now from a distance this just looks like a standard 212 E-Class, but if you know your AMGs you'll spot the giveaways. You get wider arches, you get massive brakes, and you get the 6.3 litre AMG badge on each wing. Moving around the back, you get this very subtle boot spoiler and 4 exhausts. What I like about this is it's kind of a Q car. What I like most about this car is that it's quite discreet and subtle. It does a really good job of keeping its power under wraps. That is, of course, until you start it, and then it's about as subtle as a chainsaw in a library. In fact, listen to this. Let me fire it up for you. See what I mean? How good does that sound? It's an absolute monster. The main reason you buy one of these cars, of course, is for the engine. So let me show you what lies under the bonnet. Under the bonnet then is the M156 engine. Now, despite the wings saying 6.3, it's actually a 6.2 litre. But don't for one think that that means you've been shortchanged, because the figures are quite impressive. 525 brake horsepower, 630 newton meters of torque, 0 to 60 in just over 4 seconds. There's no turbo, there's no mild hybrid system, just pure displacement and revs. And this will rev to 7,000 RPM. It just makes that noise that you'll never get tired of. Honestly, I think it's one of the best engines AMG have made. Maybe not the most reliable, but I'll get onto that later. Anyway, enough talking. I'm like a kid in a sweet shop. Let's get out on the road, shall we? On the road, it feels surprisingly agile for a big 2-ton saloon. As I walked up to it this morning, I thought, that's quite a big car, this is going to feel like a boat, but it really doesn't. The whole car kind of just wraps around you. The steering system on this is nice and old-fashioned. It's hydraulic, so you get plenty of feel through it. That's what you really want when you've got over 500 horsepower. You need some confidence, and this gives you plenty. The suspension's a little bit on the firm side, but it's not too harsh or crashy. I think this would be perfectly comfortable even on a long trip. You get these beautiful sculpted AMG seats which are nice and supportive. They're really comfortable actually. My first complaint though is the 7-speed auto gearbox. It's a little bit clumsy and hesitant. It seems to be quite easily confused. This isn't a dual clutch DCT, it's what's known as an MCT, so it actually uses a clutch pack. And I just think it doesn't really fit the car very well. It'll be fine on a track I imagine because the gear changes are nice and quick, but around town it's a bit jerky. Once you get used to it, it's fine, but I really think this car would have benefited from a standard automatic gearbox with a torque converter. Straight away though, you'll be really impressed with the throttle response. It's instant. The engine just feels alive in a way that turbocharged engines just don't really. See what I mean about the gearbox? It's just knocked me down a gear and it's just a little bit clumsy. Like I say, it doesn't really fit this car very well. It's a nice big comfortable executive mobile. It really should have had a proper auto gearbox. It's quite theatrical this car, it will have you grinning ear to ear. When you floor it, it sounds awesome and the front end actually lifts up. Allow me to demonstrate. That's seriously quick. See what I mean about grinning ear to ear? That's just so addictive. I just want to do that all day long, I don't think I'd ever get bored of it. This engine just feels alive in a way that turbocharged stuff just doesn't really. You just can't help but fall in love with it, and you can't really believe what's going on because it just feels like an ordinary 212. Over the years I've driven dozens of 212s, and they're a nice luxurious, docile car. So when you're driving this sensibly, you kind of think that you're in an E350 until you floor it. And then you'll find yourself clinging on for dear life, laughing hysterically. It's a proper event, this. Before we continue with today's video, I just need to say a big thank you to today's video sponsor, Car Vertical. Now, if you're considering buying a used car or motorbike, it's really important that you do a thorough vehicle history check first. Without that, you just don't know what you're buying. There are so many dodgy cars out there, I'd hate for you to end up buying one. And with Car Vertical, it couldn't be easier. All you need to do is go to carvertical.com, and don't worry, I'll leave the link below in the video description, and type in the reg or the VIN. And by the way, this isn't just a UK thing, it works in 35 different countries. A few moments later, you get a thorough, detailed report back, and it'll tell you whether the car's ever been stolen, written off, had a mileage rollback, or has outstanding finance on it. In addition to that, it shows you the MOT history, the ownership changes, the reg plate changes, all that sort of stuff. It'll tell you the spec, the average market value. It's just a really thorough tool. Sometimes if the car's been involved in an accident, it shows you photographs of the recorded damage. Also, I've had it where it's shown me photographs from the last time the car was advertised, so you can compare the condition. It doesn't take long and it isn't expensive, and it's cheaper still if you use my promo code HIGHPEAK. That's HIGHPEAK all one word, HIGHPEAK, and you'll save yourself 20% off each and every check that you do. It really is as easy as that. So thanks Car Vertical for sponsoring today's video. Right, back to the E63 review. One thing that surprised me actually with this car is just how luxurious it feels. Now if you compare this to a C63, a 204, then you get plastic dash and it just doesn't feel as upmarket. But with this, it does feel like you're in an expensive limousine. You get a nice thick AMG steering wheel, you get a leather dash, leather door cards, leather everywhere really. You also get a wood trim. It does make you feel very pampered, very rich. As for the rest of the interior, then it's all very Mercedes circa 2011. You get loads of physical buttons, there's no silly touchscreen, you get heated seats, you get a really intelligent climate control system. I've always liked that about the 212. You get a command system, you get Bluetooth audio so you can stream your own music, you get Bluetooth hands-free, you get reverse camera, DAB. So it really is kind of the perfect era of cars in my mind. After this, then you got silly touchscreens, they got rid of the physical buttons and all that sort of stuff. But for me at least, I think this is the golden era of the motor car. This has also got the Harman Kardon stereo, which sounds superb. Everything's within easy reach and everything's really easy to use. I really like this thing. I feel already like giving this car a 9 out of 10 score. It could be a 10 out of 10 if it wasn't for this gearbox. I've also played with the settings just to see if I could improve it. So you've got this rotary dial here, it's currently set in comfort, but if we put it into sport, then the whole thing gets quite aggressive. It clings onto the gears longer and it just feels like the whole car's up for a brawl. Switch it back into comfort though, and it kind of gets too lethargic and too laid back. You put your foot down in comfort mode and it's almost like it's hibernating. It's just a little bit too slow to respond. I kind of wish there was a mode in between comfort and sport. I think that'd be perfect. Maybe comfort plus or, I don't know, sport negative, I don't know. Still, it's not bad. The rest of the car's so good, it kind of carries that. The rest of it really then is just like a standard 212. So you get plenty of headroom, plenty of legroom, plenty of room in the back. You get a decent sized boot at 540 litres. So it really would be quite an easy car to live with. If you want something more practical, they even do the estate version, or the wagon if you're watching this in America or Australia. This era of E63, the 212, ran from 2009 until 2016. But if you want one of these with a 6.2 naturally aspirated engine, then you need to look for one pre-2011. This is a 2011, it's like one of the very last of. In 2011, they did away with this 6.2 litre NA engine and replaced it with a 5.5 litre twin turbo. And that kind of changed the whole car. This is obviously rear-wheel drive as you'd expect, but in other markets, the rest of Europe for example, this was available as a 4MATIC with all-wheel drive. But here in the UK, that was never an option. This with 4MATIC would just give you a bit more confidence in winter. A couple of times today I've managed to spin the rear wheels without even trying. And we're in the middle of summer and it's currently 27 degrees. So imagine this when the roads are a little bit damp or icy. I guess it'd be like my AMG GT, it would feel like a bit of a handful. We're currently at 30 miles an hour, we've just joined the bypass, so if we floor it, see what happens, shall we? Oh yeah. This is properly quick. That's brutal. But for a split second, because I'm in comfort mode, it didn't really do anything. It felt like it was in a deep sleep until I poked it and it woke up and then kicked down a couple of gears. We'll try that again in sport mode. Are you ready? Yeah, it is quicker to respond. But you wouldn't want to leave it in sport mode all day long, would you? While you're driving to work or taking your kids to school. So yeah, it could do with an in-between setting really. Now in the UK, these are now very cheap. You can pick up a high mileage ropey example from as little as £12,000 or £13,000. I would advise you don't do that though, to be honest, because you're in for a whole world of pain. What you need to do is spend maybe 20 and you'll get yourself a really nice one. For £20,000 you'll get yourself a really nice example with around 80,000 miles on the clock with full history, and that's what you want. Service history on a car like this is everything. One thing to bear in mind though is I do think this is a future classic. I know I keep banging on about it, but this is the last of the 6.2 litre naturally aspirated V8s. And in a few years' time, that will be very sought after. Mark my words. This was the real turning point. After this, they went to a 5.5, then a 4 litre, and then look at the new C63s. That's like a 2 litre hybrid or whatever it is, 4-cylinder. This is the last E-Class from that era when everything was a bit mad. My favourite era. Right, let's talk about things to watch out for then. Now, the biggest thing on this M156 engine is head bolt failure. Early M156 engines had this issue where the head bolts would stretch and then they'd let coolant into the cylinders. But the good thing is, by 2010, 2011, that issue was mostly solved, but still check the service history, it's really important. A quick tip for you actually, if you open the bonnet and have a look at the engine, if it's got the black rocker covers, then you've got the improved head bolts and you should be alright. If on the other hand it's got the grey aluminium rocker covers, then it'll be the old bolts, and you need to check that they've been changed. There is a website online where you can check the engine code, so it's definitely worth checking that out. Or check out Sam at SBR's blog. This is actually his car that I've borrowed today, so he told me all about the common issues. And he's owned this car for around 6 or 7 years, and he is the man to talk to about Mercedes. That's probably a good opportunity for me to thank Sam in the first place for lending me this car. And if you haven't already, go and check out his YouTube channel. He's SPR Mercedes specialist and they're based over near Stockport. They're nearly at 50,000 subscribers, so go and check them out if you're interested in Mercedes, and make sure you subscribe. Sam was telling me though that this is the first engine that was designed and built by AMG. The previous generation, like the engine fitted in my SL55, was a Mercedes unit that was tuned by AMG, whereas this is an AMG engine from the ground up. And you see, that's kind of the problem, because what you're getting essentially is a race car engine in a passenger car. And that race car engine wasn't designed to do 120,000 miles like an ordinary car. So things just wear out. You know, if you compare this to the old M113 engine, like the one that's fitted in my SL55, they're bulletproof. They're renowned for being as tough as old boots, whereas the M156, different story. This is far racier, it's louder, it's more responsive, but it is less reliable. Something else to watch for on this engine is they can suffer from camshaft and lifter wear, which isn't cheap to put right. Sam told me it's just pot luck really. He's had low mileage cars in there that have suffered with it, but then he's also had high mileage cars in there that have been totally fine. So it is kind of the luck of the draw. Cam adjusters are a common issue as well, so if you start it up and you hear a rattle for a couple of seconds, that's probably what it'll be. A bit like the 204 C-Class, the rear subframe can rot away, but luckily that's something that Mercedes still cover under warranty. It's not as common an issue as it is on the 204, but it's definitely something worth checking out. Apparently at this sort of time they use different protection or something, so it's not as much of an issue, but still, bear it in mind. What else can I tell you? The MCT gearbox needs a service every 3 years or 30,000 miles, so make sure you have that done. Generally speaking, it is quite a reliable gearbox, but it will feel a bit lazy if it hasn't been serviced regularly. Then I suppose you just got the standard AMG stuff like brakes and tyres. Speaking of brakes, they're very costly to replace. So the front brake discs and pads on this are floating and they'll cost you £1,500 to replace. The backs are just fixed, but they'll still set you back £1,000. So that's £2,500 to replace the discs and pads all round. It's quite expensive, isn't it? And the tyres will set you back around £200 a corner. And I can't imagine the rear ones lasting a long time, especially if you've got a heavy right foot. It also has air suspension, but only on the rear. But don't let that put you off, because it is quite a reliable system. They don't often go wrong. In terms of fuel economy, around town you'll get about 15 mpg. Today, for example, from start I've been doing 14.2 miles per gallon, or from reset 15.9. On a steady motorway run though, you'll get about 25 miles per gallon, which for a 6.2 litre V8 isn't too bad. It's not a Prius though, is it? The road tax here in the UK is quite high, it's £735 a year, and general servicing costs won't be cheap either. But what I always recommend you do is find a decent Mercedes specialist and just stick with them. I always think it's far better to take the car to somebody who knows them inside out. It's just one of those cars that you've got to be aware of the higher running costs. This isn't an E220 CDI, so you can't really run this on a shoestring. So the 2011 E63 Mercedes with this glorious naturally aspirated V8 is kind of the end of an era, which is a bit sad really. They're probably one of the best saloon cars ever made. I mean, you do have other options like the M5 for example, or the RS6, or something like the Lexus GSF, or even something like a Porsche Panamera. But believe it or not, this is far rarer. You do see RS6s and M5s far more frequently than you do an E63. So that's another tick in its box, and it does have an awful lot going for it. It's fast, it's comfortable, it sounds incredible, and it's got that old-fashioned mechanical feel to it that you just don't get these days in many cars. Yes, it's expensive to run, and that gearbox isn't perfect, but it will make you smile ear to ear every single time you use it. And I think that's worth every penny. If you're a petrol head, you'll love this car. So I think that's about it, guys and girls. Thank you once again for watching. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't done already. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and TikTok. I'll leave the links below. Make sure you check out Sam's channel. I'll leave the link below for that as well. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Cheers, guys.